Hello, and welcome to TankSpot's Cataclysm Raid Guide. My name is Papa Paint, and in this video I will be discussing the strategy for Maloriak in the Blackwing Descent raid instance. Maloriak is a relatively straightforward fight that requires little more than proper coordination of your raid for one simple awareness phase, and again for the final burn phase. In addition, there are adds that must be off-tanked for a while and then AoE'd down, as well as a couple spells that require interruption. Don't be too intimidated though. At its core, this encounter is a tank and spank. First, it's important to assign players to interrupt Arcane Storm. You can increase the cast time of this ability with Slow or Curse of Tongues, so be sure to assign someone to toss that on. Arcane Storm is a channeled AoE that can quickly wipe the raid if not interrupted. You will also need an offensive Dispeller to remove Remedy, a heal over time spell Maloriak will occasionally cast on himself. It heals for increasingly larger amounts the longer it's on him, so get rid of it as quickly as possible. During Phase 1, Maloriak will occasionally run to his cauldron and toss in one of 3 vials, red, green, and blue. Each vial causes him to gain new abilities unique to that color, so be aware of what he's selecting and respond appropriately. Whenever Maloriak tosses in a red vial, he will gain the abilities Scorching Blast and Consuming Flames. Consuming Flames is a small damage over time spell that becomes significantly more dangerous if the affected player takes any other magic damage. Scorching Blast is an AoE frontal cone fire spell that splits its damage among all players in range. Have your raids stack up, and the player with Scorching Blast can simply run out. Face Maloriak to the raid, heal through the fire damage, and the phase is trivial. When he tosses in a blue vial, he gains the abilities Flash Freeze and Biting Chill. Biting Chill causes a single player to deal frost damage to all other players within 6 yards, so have the range to be spread out and assign an area for melee to run when this ability affects them. Flash Freeze will encase a player and all players within 6 yards in a block of ice which must be broken in order to free those players. The blocks have fairly low health, so a hit or two generally does the trick. Every third vial is sure to be a green vial. Maloriak will coat everything in the room with debilitating slime, increasing damage taken by 100%. This is your solution to dealing with the adds. During the fight, Maloriak will cast Release Aberrations, releasing 3 adds at a time from cages in the back of the room. These adds take significantly reduced damage unless under the effect of debilitating slime, so your best bet is to have a tank round them up and hold them until the green vial phase. There are 18 adds total that can be released, and you only want 2 green vials in order to beat the enrage timer. Allow him to release 9 adds before each green vial, and then interrupt any additional casts of Release Aberrations until green vial is cast again, and your raid can AoE down the mobs. During the final phase, he releases 2 more adds called Prime Subjects. These need to be picked up quickly, as they will lock onto their target a few seconds after being released and fixate on them until death. Have the tank pick these up, and your raid can comfortably ignore them to focus on burning down Maloriak. Maloriak will cast Lines of Fire at your tank, so face him towards the wall, slowly kite him around the room, and ensure that no one is standing behind the tank. There are also 2 AoEs going out in the form of Absolute Zero and Poison Nova. Poison Nova is a small dot that must be simply healed through, while Absolute Zero summons a Void Zone under a player, producing an orb that will explode if a player touches it. This fight sounds significantly more complicated than it actually is. I'll provide footage of the entire fight with some commentary, simplifying the strategy discussion along with comments on how we handled each phase. Thanks for watching this guide. To stay up to date on Cataclysm raid information, subscribe to this channel and look for updates on encounter guides, including heroic mode raid guides. As always, feel free to ask questions or leave comments either on YouTube or the official strategy thread on TankSpot.com. Now, positioning off the pool is not as important as positioning for the remainder of the fight. You can simply tank him where he starts. We chose to simply wait for him to pick his first vial before we do anything. This time he decided to pick red first. He can alternate between starting with red or blue. We have seen both. This may have been hotfixed at some point to a more predictable routine, but during progression we were seeing both. So once he casts Engulfing Flames here, that player simply runs out of the raid, and he tends to cast an Arcane right before he does a Scorching Blast. So things like Aura Mastery, DK, Anti-Magic Shield, etc. can all be based around that, or at least the first one. And he does it again, Arcane Storm, and then Blast. So that adds a little bit more predictability to the red vial phase. For the most part, this is easily the simplest phase. Here we have to spread out a bit more for blue phase. You see everyone's basically just staying 6 yards apart to make sure that they don't chain flash freeze. Basically, if you ever did KT, the flash freeze mechanic is almost the exact same, except it's much easier to break people out. Actually, I believe in KT you had to wait. I don't remember. But here you can see one of our other paladin healers get flash freezed, and 2 hits and he's out. That's it. I think they have like 5k health, I'm not sure. Biting Chill, of course, is a pain in the butt for melee. It just means that they run out and sit around not doing anything for a little while. And over to the right there, you can see all the aberrations that have jumped out of their cages and are being off-tanked. We swapped to using 2 tanks for a little while for this. It helped us, release more aberrations and get them out of the way early on in the fight. And it sort of reduced the damage, because these aberrations do more damage the more of them are out. But as you can see, they get AoE'd down pretty darn fast during that green slime phase. Their increased damage is relative to the number of other aberrations near them, so your best bet is to make sure that if you do use 2 tanks, to keep them far away from each other. And I believe for hard mode, 2 tanks will probably be required. Be surprised if they weren't. And the rest of green phase is fairly dull. And then back to blue phase. So as you can see, it really isn't a whole lot more than a tank and spank. I wish I could share more secrets that we had picked up while attempting him, but he's probably arguably the easiest boss in Blackwing Descent. He really doesn't require much except for a few people to run out occasionally when they would otherwise die. The burn phase can get a little stressful for healers if they're not used to it, but once you learn to predict the damage, it's actually quite simple. Also, just like what's turning out to be almost every single fight in Cataclysm so far, you need to be able to rely on your interrupters, and need to rely on them to do a perfect job, because if they screw up, it can really throw this fight out of whack. Again, red vial, everybody's just stacking up. Consuming Flames is out, he's going to run off to the side. And then we're going to heal through this relatively minor damage. It doesn't even, was that taking people down to 80%, looks like? That's nothing. I don't want to say that I'm disappointed in this fight. I mean, it was still fun to learn, but I feel like with a little additional tuning, this could have been a lot more stressful than it actually is. But who knows? Haven't really dove into hard mode yet too much, so we'll see how much that is. But even the hard mode seems to be a fairly easy fight as far as the hard modes go. I know a lot of guilds have moved on to this for one of their early kills. So here, phase 3, you just saw or phase 2 rather, he's going into it right here at 25%. And here's the fire coming up. There we go. Line of fire. Oh, first Poison Nova, which is again relatively easy to heal through. Don't stand in fire. That'll kill you. That'll get you. Yeah, here we go. So relatively easy moving, not a lot required. If you do get hit by the blue orbs, which again don't do all that much damage in normal mode, they'll also knock you back a little bit. There's a small knockback component. Nothing to really panic about. See, you see a couple people flying across the room there. And that's it. That is this entire fight. Again, I wish I had more tricks to share with it, but it's really an extremely straightforward tank and spank. A little bit of kiting needed at the end, but not much else. Thanks for watching.